Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Got several things to kind of put together today in a little video for you. But I wanted to start off by saying that, this was a kind of a long weekend for us. And I noticed that my video on Friday seemed to be misunderstood. So for those of you that watched that video on Friday, I want to clarify some things. I was talking about, all of us figuring out a way to get along and to understand that we've been so separated from a community mindset for the most part that it's difficult for people to see past their differences and understand that diversity within our group is a good thing. We don't want to all be just alike, and just because someone isn't just like you isn't necessarily a bad thing. I was speaking of the remnant. I was not talking about the world as a whole, as that we should just accept all of these pink-haired, face-pierced, liberal kind of whatever people. No, I was saying within our tribe, within the remnant, there's going to be conflict, okay? We're going to find that we don't agree on everything. We're going to see that there are little quirks and differences and personality traits that we don't necessarily like about each other. Get over it, okay? It's the ultimate goal is way more important than offending your feels or something like that. And so we as a people, as a remnant, as a tribe, when you bring that together, people need to start looking past these differences. It's okay. Now, there are certain things, of course, that you're just not going to waver on, and that's okay too. But most of the time, when I hear, whether it's in my own community or other communities, because they also tell me, seek advice and stuff, it's usually just little bitty things. I don't like how this guy talks, the tone of his voice. When he breathes, he's got this weird nasally thing, and it's just so annoying. When we have a big get-together where we all eat together, he smacks really loud, and I don't like that. It's always just silly stuff. Oh, he talks too loud. He talks too fast. He's too quiet. Oh, he can't understand what he says. I don't like his kids are a little bit more rambunctious. It's things that aren't really that big a deal in the grand scheme of things. So all I was saying is just kind of push past that, because the greater goal of coming together for surviving the end times is much more important than that. Anyways, let's rapidly shift gears here. There's a lot of stuff going on, and I'm trying to put together some things. I don't know how much of it I'll be able to present to you directly, but I'm talking with a few people this week. Someone that involved in banking that may have I don't know all the details. All I know is that they've told me that there's a lot of things happening behind the scenes with central bank digital currencies, that things look like that they're ramping up pretty quickly. I don't know the details, so it may not be anything. It could be way worse than what we expect, but that's happening. I know for a fact that there is that the level of censorship that we're seeing online on a lot of these social media platforms, including the one that we're on right now, is becoming a bigger and bigger deal. Some folks that I know that are bigger channels, bigger audiences, bigger platforms than myself, they are really having a hard time now getting their message out because of the level of censorship. People have been hacked, all kinds of stuff. So that's happening, and that's a serious deal. And we've been seeing, what was it, just last week or so at the United Nations, that was kind of a big theme, that, to the only way that we could have free speech is that if we censor free speech, because free speech is a weapon of war. That was actually said at the United Nations. And then of course also DHS, the memo from DHS, with they themselves saying that they believe they do have the authority to censor your speech. So we're going to see this more and more and more. It's a threat to democracy. That's what Biden says. It's a threat to democracy. We don't have a democracy, but hey, it's their democracy that's a threat. And so that's why they got to shut it down. So we're going to be seeing more of that, and we'll be talking about that at some point in the future as I kind of pull things together more. Cyber attacks seem to be on the rise. There's been reports of various banks not having access to ATMs and things like that. Could it be just little glitches? It's possible, but there does seem to be an increase in cyber attack activity. And will it be either a widespread event that shuts everything down, or could it just be a local or regional event? Either way, if you're caught in the middle of it, it could be a big deal for you, you know, some kind of SHTF. So we'll talk about that eventually soon, and when I get more of that. But mostly today I want to revisit something I've been talking about a lot lately. Immigration. It's not really immigration, it's an invasion. And that's exactly what it is. And I just wanted to show you this kind of stuff because sometimes there's a few of you out there that you forget or you're not paying attention, and you need to pay attention because this is quite serious. I'm going to show you another video. This is very recent, in the last couple of days. It's another train that is making its way to the U.S.-Mexican border. This one's down in Mexico somewhere. I don't remember where. It doesn't really matter. There's numerous ones. We're seeing them all over the place. And you can see they're just, it looks like one of them trains in India. They're just jumping on it as the train goes by. There's actually been a few trains in Mexico that they've shut them down. The news was reporting that because this is happening so often now, and people are getting hurt and even killed. And while Mexico isn't quite as advanced as us, they are much more advanced than some other countries, and they're afraid people are going to start suing these train companies and things like that. But it is happening. I've seen videos in Mexico where it's absolute chaos, out of control, where these people are rushing these trains or rushing on buses and stuff, trying to get here to the United States. Border Patrol reported just a couple of days ago that they're now seeing the most crossings that they're, interacting with, people that they're catching, people that they're aware of, the most crossings ever, well over 11,000 per day. Now remember that island over in Italy, well, I'll mention that more here in just a second. They're getting between 7,000 and 10,000 kind of in a weekend or a week. We're getting that every day. Now, yeah, we have a bigger country and a bigger population. My friend, that's going to add up real fast. 10, 11, 12, 15,000 people a day. And you have to understand, that's just at the southern border. Excuse me. That's just at the southern border. And that is only the ones that are being caught. They estimate that over 200,000 people over the last year, I think Robert Kennedy even talked about this, has just flown into the country. They just fly in, whether it's falsified documents or no one even pays any attention. They just fly into the country. And then there's hundreds of thousands over the last year that's come in through the Canadian border or through other ports of entry, other ways of getting into this country. So this 11,000 a day is only the southern border, and it's only the ones that the Border Patrol catch. Remember that. So how many other people, could we be seeing, 30, 40, 50,000 people a day coming into this country on average? It's quite possible. I'm not saying it is, but when you start to look at everything, it's possible that the numbers could be well over double what the Border Patrol is letting us know at the southern border. This is a big deal. This is an all-out invasion, folks. We have to wrap our heads around it and look at it as an invasion. The predominant number of people, the diversity and everything that's coming across, they're mostly military-aged men. You can see it in every video. You can look at the reports. Hardly more than 10, maybe 20% of the people coming across the border are women and children. The vast majority is military-aged men. Now, does that mean that they're all in the military? No. What it means is that they're young, rambunctious, strong men capable of committing crimes, capable of doing all sorts of things, and they could quite possibly be infiltrators under a foreign banner. Yesterday, a video was posted that the video was actually taken by Texas DPS, that there was on the river separating the United States from Mexico. The river they have to cross. There's a little island. It's just basically a gravel bar, right? Some Venezuelans were coming across, and they put a Venezuelan flag out there, and they were trying to claim it as land for Venezuela. Of course, that's ludicrous. But the point that I'm getting at is that the left, the media, wants to tell us, oh, these people, they just want to come here because they're escaping you know, persecution and violence and poverty, and they're coming to the United States to embrace, you know, the greatness and to work and to live here and to be Americans. No, that's not the case. They're specifically coming here to infiltrate. They want to see, especially the southwestern parts of the United States, be turned back over to Mexico. You know, most of that all was, you know, from California through to Texas. It was all at one point Mexican territory. We did get it rightfully from them. I mean, I know some of you are going to argue that. I don't care, whatever. But yeah, they're trying to, you know, look up La Raza, things like that, where the intent is to move so many people into those areas that eventually they can get the vote and turn it back over to Mexico or something, or its own nation. It's a real thing, you know. Don't roll your eyes at it, folks. It's been going on for decades now. This is a super serious problem, and unfortunately, most people are just ignoring it. You know, Senator McCarthy was trying to be all bold about it and say, "Oh, we're not gonna compromise on spending bill until we take care of this border issue." But he's already backed off of that. We probably will have a government shutdown in 3 or 4 days, but honestly, I don't. Fine, let it happen. Shut the whole thing down. Just lock the doors, put chains on the gate and everything, kick everybody out, send them home, and shut it down, as far as I'm concerned. But that's not the point of this video. The people coming across the border is very serious. We have to be prepared for this. Yes, we're seeing in the news them talking about all these towns especially in Texas and Arizona, New Mexico, all these border areas, you know, down the south, because they're feeling it first, obviously, right? And then we hear about, you know, New York. New York is complaining. Yeah, they've had a lot, but that's a huge city. You know, they're up there whining and complaining about the thousands that they got up there. How many hundreds of thousands are flooding into the southern border, and all these small little towns are dealing with it? So it's ridiculous. But the thing is that it's not going to be in just a few little places. I've heard from so many people over the last few weeks that are living in areas that aren't even close to the border or to New York or whatever. They're just spread all across the United States, and they're telling me the amount of you know, Hispanic, non-English speaking, potentially illegally here people and that are showing up in their communities are getting large in numbers. I mean, you have to understand, if it's an area that doesn't have much of a Hispanic population, everyone speaks English, and then all of a sudden a few dozen people show up in the town and they're walking around standing looking for work and stuff, they don't speak English, it's a good chance that they're probably not here legally. So this is happening everywhere, and we have to brace ourselves for it. Europe is dealing with the same thing, you know, that there's boats, there's still there's videos almost every day of boats coming across the Mediterranean into Europe. They estimate that on the North African coast, the people that are kind of gathering and they're getting on these boats to come across is somewhere in the neighborhood of 500,000 that are trying to get across from Africa into Europe. Gaddafi warned about this. Said if he was killed, that sub-Saharan Africa, sub-Saharan Africa would just be flooded into Europe, and he was right. I think that was, you know, 10 years ago or so. I can't remember the actual date. That's irrelevant. That he made that quote, that statement, and he was absolutely right. He said he was the only thing that was preventing, you know, African people from flooding into Europe. And then that's exactly what we're seeing happen. It's the same thing over in the United States. This is being done for a purpose, folks. This is exactly what the United Nations has planned. You can read their documents. They make them very public. The Pope is pushing this. The World Economic Forum is pushing this. All of these globalist elites are pushing this. It fits within their narrative. It's replacement population theory. It fits. They can justify the climate control stuff by saying, oh, look at all these people migrating. World Economic Forum has been predicting at least 1 billion people will be displaced and be migrating into the northern hemisphere. All of these things have been said. This is done for a purpose, and it is a war on us. It is a war on Americans. It is a war on our communities. Are all these people bad? Certainly not, but many of them are. And even if they're not necessarily or inherently bad, because of the way they come here and because of the poverty, a lot of times they are pushed to do bad things just so they can survive. They're not necessarily inherently evil in the heart. They're pushed to steal or to do things, to take up jobs like pushing drugs or anything like that just to feed themselves or their families. And it creates just an overall horrible situation, especially for us dealing with this pouring into our cities and our communities. We have to get prepared. Need to get out of the cities as much as possible. You need to be stocking up, obviously, that kind of stuff, banding together with friends, coming up with plans of what are you going to do? What are you going to do when your community, when your area starts getting flooded with bunches of invaders from, other countries, because they're coming from all over, obviously not just Mexico or even the South America. They're coming from everywhere. And what are you going to do when the crime rates hit the point that you can't safely go about and do your business, or at least, alone? Some of you ladies, it's just not going to be safe. We need to be planning for this, taking it serious. Don't just sit at home on your phone or on your computer or your TV and watching all these people flood into this country and say, well, that's really a bad thing. That's awful. Do something. You may not be able to stop it at the border, but you can do something in your own life and in your own family, your own household, to prepare yourselves for it, because it is going to be a problem, especially when you attach it to all of these other things that we talk about. It all comes together. It's all one big picture, folks. It's not just individual events happening. Trust me, it's all connected, it's all planned, and it's all one big picture. You need to be getting your houses in order and preparing yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.